All right, finally got the cameras all working the way they should be. So this is good. So we got clearance power on. Gonna wait for #1 Garmin to come up so I can pick up the ATIS. I did file an IFR flight plan, even though it's a beautiful day. I still enjoy doing that, and it keeps me in practice. I'm Eric Reese. I sell real estate for a living, but I fly and instruct in the Aerostar for fun. Join us on our travel and training adventures in the world's fastest light piston twin. Okay, ATIS.
4, altimeter 3016. Visual approach runway 16 in use. Advise on initial contact, you have uniform. Random information uniform, 2353 observation. Wind 170 at 4. Weather's better than 5005. Temperature 10, 2.4. Altimeter 3016. Visual approach runway 16 in use. Advise on initial contact, you have uniform.
Alright, that's good.
Random information uniform, 2353 observation. Wind.
Alright, we'll do this for the flow again. Across left to right, so we turn the beacon on, the nav on, panel lights are on as required, fuel on, crossfeed, back to on, pumps are off, breakers are all in the center, prop sinks on manual, mixtures idle cutoff, throttle's closed. Down here, bleed air is on, deflated for the door seal, and bleed air is on the right side. Come back up, flaps are set to neutral, crossfeed, and on. The hydraulic shutoff valve is open, blower's closed, heater and defroster's closed. Aux hydraulic is off, fans off, lights on the fire's good. Bring these back down to just RPM now, because these guys, we've got a quarter of a tank in there, which is what I expect. And master's off, autopilot master's off, door seal is on, these guys are good. I'll set this to 293016. And I know we're going to have a 3,000 footer up there, so that's good. Let's start the right one first, so we'll crack the throttles up about an inch. Boost pump on. Mississippi 2, Mississippi 3, Mississippi 4. Coming up, so that engine was a little bit warm and didn't need anywhere near that much prime, so it started rich. Okay, right alternator lights out, oil pressure's coming up. This one, I'm just going to prime it a little tiny bit. Okay, we'll go ahead and check the boost pumps, high to low, and then to off. And then go ahead and switch the radio and autopilot master on. best laid plans. I had got the cameras working really well, but still had problems with the audio cables. So unfortunately, the only audio that's being picked up is from the mics on the GoPros, and with all the engine background noise, didn't work. So just got cleared for takeoff, and they gave us please depart immediately, no delays. So power's going to come up as I round the corner here. Airspeed's all alive, and at 80 knots, I'll lighten the nose a little bit. Hear the little solenoid downlock clicking. Rotate at 95, come off at 100. Positive rate of climb, gear up. Once I get up to about 110 knots or so, I'll go ahead and bring the flaps up to 0. A fun departure out of Renton. It's just straight out until you get to about 400 feet, and then a slight left turn to 150 degrees, and then once reaching 1,000 feet, further left to 130. And then you'll fly that way a little while, and center will come on and turn you heading north towards Payne Field. So the flight plan was just direct Renton to Payne Field, and plan to shoot the ILS 16 right. We're still climbing, doing about 160 knots indicated, and I'm at climb power, which is 37.5 inches of manifold pressure and 2,400 RPM, which equates to about 80, a little bit over 80% power. Making that left turn towards Payne Field. Typically they'll put you on a heading of about 330, 340, and it's almost like a big 20-mile downwind for the ILS. Pretty night out tonight as the sun goes down over the Puget Sound. We're pointing pretty much directly at Payne right now. And Lake Washington off to the left with Mercer Island in the middle of the lake there. Jump ahead a little bit, and it got dark. How about that? So this is about the point where center has dropped us down to 3,000 feet, which is the altitude that they'll have us intercept the localizer. and they've turned us to a heading of 250, which is pretty typical. It's a base leg, and momentarily we'll get another turn to heading 190 and maintain 3000 till established for the approach. And one thing I did here was they called me back and said, do you want to do the ILS Zulu? And I said, sure, even though I had ILS Yankee set up. So I very quickly went into the GPS and reloaded the approach for the correct one, even though it was kind of last minute, but I guess that's good practice on doing their thing. So at this point, I just got a left turn heading 190, maintain 3000, cleared for the ILS 16 right approach. Really pretty evening here at Puget Sound. It's a little bumpy in here. Once I get established onto the localizer, which is just coming up here momentarily, everything's all coupled with the autopilot, and I start a left turn. Also have the number 2 HSI set up with the number 2 VOR, a great backup for the number 1. So if something goes wrong with one or the other, I've always got 2 that I can look at and compare. Once established inbound, still level, autopilot's coupled, I'm in altitude hold. I have set the autopilot to approach, and power still hasn't changed. I'm still running at 25 inches and 2200 RPM, and I'll stay there until about a dot below the glide slope, and at that point in time I'll drop the gear. I'm still doing about 150 at this point. Gear, and this will slow me down even more, and I'm still level, have not intercepted the glide slope yet. That's coming up here in a second, and once that happens, then I'll run the mixtures full rich. I'll gently bring the throttles full forward and the prop sync off, and that just adds a little bit of drag, and then pull the manifold pressure or the power back to about 17 inches. And for a no-wind 3-degree glide slope, 2500 RPM or full RPM and 16 to 17 inches of manifold pressure will give me about 120 to 130 knots on a 3-degree glide slope, and it's just perfect. But on this particular one, it got a little bit bumpy, and at one point in time in here, and it'll jump ahead, I actually had to increase the power all the way up to 20 inches to stay at 120 knots. And it got to the point where I don't like the way the autopilot's flying this, so I just switched it off and hand flew it the rest of the way. So everything's looking good. Pretty sight. Runway's straight ahead. You can barely see it at this point, but I always love flying into airports at night with the runway with all the fancy lighting. It just reminds me of Christmas time with the Christmas lights. This is when it was getting a little bit, you can see the nose kind of wallowing back and forth, and the airplane felt like it was riding on bubbles of air, and really kind of strange. And at that point I went ahead and here shortly I clicked the autopilot off. had enough of that. Autopilot's off. Let's smooth this thing out. These little GoPro 8s do a pretty good job at night. Not too much grain in the video, and they're holding the vibration pretty well. It's amazing how well these little cameras work. Well, fun little flight. Got the cameras working good. Still have the audio to figure out. I should have a new cable tomorrow, which is the right one, and we'll have good audio from here on out. Still learning how to use this Premiere Pro, which is fun, but man, is it ever time consuming. Next time I won't put the camera dead center so you can't see the runway. One of my favorite sights. Gears down and checked again. Flaps going to full. Field is made on glide path. And slowing down. We're shooting for 100 knots over the fence. Gears down and checked one more time. Got some new LED landing lights in there, and they are nice and bright. That had to be one of the nicest landings I've done in a long time. Nice way to end a flight, bringing the airplane back from its 6-week annual and get to go play with it some more. Looking forward to making some more of these videos, and you guys know the drill. Go ahead and subscribe and like the video, and we'll keep getting better and better at this.